I wish I could use Japanese gear with my favorite weapon. Hashtag gear for all. Hello and welcome to Splat Talk, the series where I let my mind smack talk about different topics related to Splatoon in general. And today I'm gonna talk about making the most out of your weapon in battle. This video is not here to tell you what weapon to choose nor how to be better at the game, but rather to tell you how to make the most out of your weapon in battle, using its full potential to your advantage no matter what weapon you pick up. This might sound weird, but trust me, there are people that pick up whatever weapon and don't win battles because they don't know how to use the weapon or don't use them to their full extent. The first step to make the most out of your weapon is picking up the weapon, going into the test range and try and look at how the weapon functions. By opening the menu for equipping your gear, you can check on the weapon stats by choosing a weapon and pressing ZL. You can see all sorts of information depending on the type of your weapon, like damage output, fire rate, mobility, lightness, explosion radius, or more commonly, its range. There are literally plenty of videos telling you about the roles you can play and the decisions you can make depending on the stats of the weapon for a reason. And most of the time, the first reason is about how the weapon works and at what range it can fire up to. I'm using here the ballpoint splatling as a first example here. Once you fully load your weapon and unload, it fires at short range with a wide spread and very fast fire rate before shooting farther, being more precise while having its fire rate reduced. If you test out this weapon a bit more, you'll notice you can reload the weapon at any time even when it's already firing. This allows the player to extend the time to fire at short or long range distance depending on the current fire mode, but also enables the player to switch from long range to short range more quickly. Keep in mind that the most important thing that visually tells you what fire mode you're on is the reticle of the ballpoint splatling. You'll also notice that your run speed while firing this weapon is higher in short range mode than long range mode. This weapon is kinda like a mix between mini and hydra splatling. Sure, it's good that you know how the main weapon works, but each weapon in this game comes equipped with a sub and a special weapon, and every weapon has at least one variant with a different set of sub and special weapon equipped with a weapon that, in some cases, make the main weapon function differently. The second step to make the most out of your weapon is to understand what sub and special weapon comes equipped with your weapon of choice and how they work on their own and with the main weapon. Taking on the example of the ballpoint splatling, the first ballpoint comes equipped with a Toxic Mist and Inkjet. Toxic Mist is a sub-weapon that disrupts your enemies when they enter the mist. Their moving speed in general is reduced when they're inside the mist and their ink consumption increases exponentially, without counting into the fact that should they stay longer, their ink reserve decreases too. This sub allows you to engage the enemy in close combat and quickly dispose of him. In this case, it emphasizes the player to play more aggressively and make use of the short range mode more frequently, even though they can still use the long range mode to push a little farther. This sub can also be used from the distance to disrupt the enemy at certain key locations while you aim and shoot from afar and take them down. And then there's the Inkjet, which is the special weapon of choice for Slayer type players, as it can quickly dispose of the enemy team by firing its cannon while you hover in midair with the Inkjet. As you can see, Toxic Mist and Inkjet turns the ballpoint splatling into a Slayer type oriented weapon, those which are best used in the front lines. And then there's ballpoint splatling Nouveau, which is technically the same main weapon but with a different set of sub and special weapon, featuring squid beacons and inkstorm. Squid beacons allow your team to jump towards a point on the map where you put a squid beacon, allowing for quick traversal on the map on another point than where your allies are currently standing. It's especially useful for jumping back in the middle of the battlefield in a safe spot hidden from the enemy. And then Inkstorm is basically a giant cloud that rains your team's ink on the battlefield and travels in the direction where you throw the cloud at. If the enemy steps under the cloud of ink, they are being gradually damaged by the ink droplets. Not only that, but their movement will be hindered by the ink that falls onto the ground, making for a useful pressure tool. In this case, this kit turns the ballpoint splatling nouveau into a support and backline weapon, as it refocuses your attention on helping your teammates while you stay in the backline and focus on using the long-range mode of the splatling, since the point is to provide your allies viable anchor points from where they'll jump back into battle, both with sweet beacons and yourself, while disrupting the enemy as much as you can with as many ink storms as you can pull off. So as you can see, we have one weapon with two different kits that make it act differently depending on what kit you choose to use. Now, the third step is to equip the right gear that will help you benefit the most from your weapon of choice. People who use weapons from the Splatling class will often use run speed up, as it increases their walking speed while they unload their weapon. In the heat of the battle, players strafe to one side or the other, as it is their main way of dodging opponent fire while they fire their weapon. And it is true not only just to the Splatling class, but in fact to many weapons in the game. But it is more important, especially to the Splatling class. The Splatling class also has the tendency to use a huge amount of ink as you unload the weapon. And in that case, it is also recommended to use Ink Saver Main and Ink Recovery Up, as it respectively reduces your ink consumption and helps you recover your ink faster. Concerning backline weapons, it's important to have its special weapon ready to use at any time, so abilities like Special Charge Up and Special Saver are needed to respectively charge your special faster and save a bit more special for the times you get splatted and respawn in battle. But considering the ballpoint splatling nouveau and considering how patch version 4.4.0 has affected this weapon, it is preferred to use main power up to increase its damage output and secure kills, and special charge up because this weapon needs more points to charge its special weapons nowadays. After all, you'll need this ink storm ASAP and throw it when it's needed the most. For the LG ballpoint splatling, it is instead preferred to use special power up, as not only it increases the duration of inkjet, it also increases the damage output of the cannon, which should come in handy if your shots don't hit the enemy directly and instead got damage by the blast radius of the explosion. It becomes easier to splat opponents like that. Of course, these are some ideas I'm giving to you about ballpoint splatling, but it is applicable as well to any other weapon in both Splatoon 1 and 2. In fact, the word of order here is to try and experiment with your weapon by looking at the weapon's stats, quirks, advantages, disadvantages, how the weapon works, how its sub and special weapon work, how they work with the main weapon, and how you can improve your performance with your weapon by equipping the right gear. And I insist to say performance because it's different from your actual skill in the game, as in aiming, filling in your role, making the right decisions on the battlefield, reacting, sustaining the pressure, team play, team communication, etc. Whereas the performance, at least in my opinion, is how the weapon plays with different gear. But not all gear abilities can be tested in the test range, especially the non-stackable ones. People who use quick respawn in combination with stealth jump and quick super jump have tested out how they play their weapon with these abilities on the battlefield. This is generally a set that's best suited for Slayer type weapons, as they throw themselves into the fray and need to jump back into battle as quickly as possible while you're remaining unnoticed by the enemy. After that, it's only a question of preference and how the gear set suits your playstyle with your weapon of choice. Another example I'd like to cite is the Squeezer, which at first seems to be used in a similar fashion to the shooter class. But the first shot of the Squeezer is more precise, travels a greater distance with a range estimated between Splatshot Pro and Jet Squelcher, and deals more damage than all subsequent shots, which have a range and RNG equivalent to the Splattershot, at least in my opinion, but with a slower fire rate and a lower damage output, which turns the weapon from a 3-shot to a 4-shot kill weapon. But in any case, as I explained in a previous video, equipping main power-up on the Squeezer increases its damage output and can help this weapon getting 3-shot kills more consistently, no matter what distance, and given the enemy was already damaged enough should you hit him with only the short-range shots. This basically gives the weapon two modes of fire. Again, a long-range mode where you repeatedly press ZR to fire the weapon and use the first shots, and a short-range mode used for dealing with enemies in close combat more easily. Because unless you manage to be extremely accurate with your tap shots, chances are your accuracy would be flubbed because of mashing ZR repeatedly, so using the short-range mode in close quarter is a wiser decision as it helps refocus your attention on aiming at the enemy. There's the OG Squeezer that comes equipped with Splash Wall and Stingray, and the Foil Squeezer that comes equipped with Splat Bomb and Bubble Blower. The OG Squeezer is more of a support/backline oriented weapon because Splash Wall helps blocking the enemy shots while firing at them from behind, while Stingray enables you to dispose of the enemy from any distance on the battlefield, while the Foil Squeezer is more of a slayer/support oriented weapon, as bubbles are an effective shield and a rather efficient tool to make surprise kills to enemies that are in higher or lower ground, or hiding behind the wall while covering a large portion of the map equivalent to the size of the bubbles. By using special power-up, you can increase the duration of the Stingray as well as launching bigger bubbles from the bubble blower. In my case, I also use a bit of Inksaver main and sub for more ink efficiency on the weapon in my case. I recommend to start using the Foil Squeezer if you want to try out Squeezer, because Splat Bomb is an easy to use sub-weapon that greatly helps in battle no matter who uses it, but again, it's up to you to try and experiment with this weapon if you want and see what gear suits best with this weapon for you. And if you think you don't play well with one weapon, no matter what gear you use with this weapon, then don't worry, there are still many other weapons out there to test out and try and experiment with, like the Nautilus Splatling, which can hold its charge like a GooTuber, making use of the charge holding mechanic of unscoped chargers or the vertical flick of rollers, locating and reading your opponent's moves with the Stingray, learning how to jump and shoot with duelists like you do with shooter weapons, without accidentally rolling instead, pressuring the enemy by throwing 2 auto bombs at the same time, given that you equipped enough Inksaver sub for the job, hunting down your enemy by extensively using point centers, using your special weapon to pressure the enemy and make a push forward, using Splash Wall more often to counter enemy fire while you take them down from behind, making use of your weapon's range, or even doing simple things like training with your aiming and movement with simple weapons like Splash Shot and Combat, because the full potential of a weapon also encompasses the basics of the game. But basically what I meant to tell you throughout this video is to use the full potential of your weapon and make use of every aspect of your weapon of choice, whether it's how it functions, how far it reaches, how well it paints, how you use the sub and special weapons that go with the main weapon, what gear to use with this weapon depending on how you play the weapon, etc., while also coping with some eventual inherent inconvenience. After that, there are many other videos you can look into that tell you how to play each role, Slayer, Support, Backline, Mixed, or how to make the right decisions in battle, but keep in mind what you've learned with experimenting with your weapon of choice and make the most out of it during battle. And that's it for this video. If you have any suggestions on a topic you want me to Splat talk on, then leave it in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe for more Splatoon content and other things gaming. This was Stardust Sonic, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Also, the developers announced there will be an update for the middle of March, so stay tuned for that.